The Model O is one of the most popular Steinway models and one that has an interesting history. Designed in 1900 by Henry Ziegler, grandson of Henry Steinway, the Model O was the first of the miniature grands. It was followed by the Model M and Model L, both also designed by Ziegler. Today we think of the Model O as a typical Steinway grand, but at its release it was a stylish model featuring a more rounded tail and squared legs, which have become a standard feature of all Steinway grands. By 1924, however, the Model O was discontinued and replaced by the Model L. There aren't any definitive facts about why this happened, but if I were to guess, I'd say that the Model L was probably just more successful. Like the M, B, and D models, the L also had a more squared tail, and I can totally see salespeople using that as a point of distinction to sell the L over the O. Fast forward into 2006, Steinway Hamburg, which had continued to build the Model O through the years, and Steinway New York, which had switched to the Model L, were already working towards aligning their models and building more closely, and it was decided that the Model O is preferred. And just like that, the Model O was back in production in New York. Today's piano is the 1908 Model O from one of my previous videos. The issue is a simple one, but one that has a deeper meaning for technicians to grasp. The let-off is too high, and the hammers are double striking and sometimes blocking on the strings. Humidity in Miami is a non-stop affair, so pianos here live in a swollen state. It doesn't take much to push a well-regulated piano over the edge. Here you can see how high the let-off is. My Emil Fry's regulation gauge is very handy for checking let-off. I don't like the new color though. This is a Steinway style let-off tool. Pretty much a necessity for setting let-off on a Steinway. You can do this other ways, but just get the tool. I like to set let-off by sound. I set a sample with the gauge and then listen to the amount of sound the key makes when you stop at let-off and then push through. I adjust the let-off so that all the keys have the same let-off volume. It should be about a triple piano. A lot of you are probably asking yourselves, isn't it more consistent to set the let-off and drop to spec? The answer is no, it isn't. In regards to consistency, let's not mistake specs as instructions. And this is where things go deeper concerning let-off and drop. Specs say that drop is 1/16 below let-off, but why is that? Well, it comes from something you don't see much about in regulation books, and that is synchronizing the let-off and drop together. Ask yourself this: how far does the jack tip travel away from the knuckle before the hammer lets off? The answer is that it's impossible to know. The setting of the drop to a measured spec ignores this very real issue. Setting the let-off by volume and then synchronizing the touching of the jack tender to the let-off button and the drop screw to the repetition lever gets you to the place that the spec describes. Here I'm synchronizing the drop. You can see the hammer rise and then stop, which is the first contact at the let-off button. Then there's a tiny bit more rise, which is when the drop screw touches the repetition lever. I adjust the drop until I can feel no difference in the key. The result is a very solid feeling at the moment of let-off, which is where the feeling of consistency comes from. This also accounts for many variables that specs ignore, such as worn out or squishy knuckles, uneven string heights, or even action geometry issues. All of this is a great example of how specs are just a starting place. So get out there and synchronize your pianos, and I'll see you next time.